Hi, friend. I'm Marcus Lapp, speech coach here at speakyourmindmethod.com. And today I want to share my personal favorite tool that played a huge role in helping me overcome my stutter. And this tool I'm about to share with you is also a favorite of many of the private clients that I work with. And the tool that I am referring to is what I call over-articulation. Now, let me give you a little glimpse of the power behind this over-articulation tool. And I'm going to start that by showing you what I used to sound like versus what I sound like now. So back in my stuttering days, I would speak in a very inarticulated way. And it would just, it's a lot of monotone, and that definitely didn't help my stuttering habit. It just made it worse. And it was, a lot of this kind this kind of talking. But now what happens when I over articulate and I actually enunciate my words more? The tone itself, it sounds much more released. It's much more pleasant to listen to, I'm sure. And it just releases the voice. Now, as with any other tool, it's unlikely that just this one is going to be the cure-all. This, as with all tools, they are a part of a larger system. But this is one of the most powerful tools, and you need to learn this. And to give you an example beyond just me of the over-articulation tool, I think a good example is Hermione Granger from the Harry Potter movies. She has this very articulated way of speaking to the point that it is even condescending at times. And I bring her up not to say that you should sound like her, but you should probably get a little bit closer to her. So even if it's halfway, that can make a huge difference in not only helping you speak more fluently, but also just speak more clearly and just sound more interesting. So this goes far beyond just not stuttering as much. It has a lot of downstream benefits beyond that as well. But yeah, Hermione Granger is an example of somebody who really uses the over-articulation tool. So now let's move into, how do you practice this over-articulation? What is the best way to do it? Now, if you want a more full system and plan that walks you through this, I have my free workshop. Link is in the description. It's called the Stop Stuttering Workshop. So you can go check that out if you want the more full approach and plan to help you with your speech. But the way that you want to practice over articulation is you really need to exaggerate it when you're practicing. This is key no matter what tool it is that you are trying to learn. Because if you try to make subtle adjustments, so if your articulation level is, here by default, and then you try to make it a little bit more here, just a slight change, then what's going to happen is it's so close to what you're already doing, it's like it'll just snap back to the default. It doesn't wake up your brain enough. So what you need to do is make it abundantly clear to your brain that you are making a specific change. And so when you are practicing by yourself, really, really exaggerate it. And so one of the ways that I often will get people to, especially when they're starting out, it's the easiest way to get started with this is just grab a book and read aloud. And so I'm just grabbing a random book here. This is actually a great book. It's called How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big, Kind of the Story of My Life by Scott Adams. It's a very interesting read. But if I just open it up to a random page and I go, my definition of happiness is that it's a feeling you get when your body chemistry is producing pleasant sensations in your mind. Now, I know what you're saying. That sounds ridiculous, but we are learning a skill. I'm talking here about practicing by yourself to learn and really get comfortable with this over-articulation tool. And then when you're in the real world, yes, it'll look a little bit different. But you need to learn it in this way if you want to learn it as quickly as possible. Really exaggerate it. Okay, now that you have been practicing your tools in private by yourself, what you want to do is then take that practice public. And this is going to be probably the most difficult bridge to gap, is to go from the private to public with these tools and these skills that you're learning. But I would say one of the best places to start getting real world experience with a tool like over articulation is a place where you order food or order coffee, so a restaurant, anything like that, because it's a very predictable place and situation. So you know that you're going to have to say a relatively short phrase explaining or telling them what you want. And so to give you an example of that, let's say you just want to order your morning coffee. And so you walk in, or maybe it's a drive-through, and they ask, "What can I get you today?" And you could respond with, "Yes, hi, could I please have the medium coffee?" Now, did you notice how I wasn't quite as exaggerated as I was when I was practicing reading aloud, but in this example, I put that over articulation at the front to help get me started. And then when that gave me a sense of comfort and more relaxation as I got the flow started, then I finished it out on a much more normal, just faster pace. And that's how you're going to use over articulation in the real world. You're not going to talk like this. No, you're going to talk like this, maybe a little bit closer to that. This will look different. You can play with this, but it's that idea of just pronouncing the damn words. Get it out. If you're always, it's like, no, get it out of, elevate your voice, get it into this place where you actually pronounce the words. Now, one more thing I want to mention when it comes to using a tool like over articulation in public is, and this is the annoying part, it's having to think about it while you're doing it. And you're making it more conscious. You're becoming more aware of what you're doing and like the mechanics of speaking, which can have some short-term drawbacks for sure. It's like, let's pretend that for some reason I was walking naturally, like the habit of walking that I have, let's say that it is going to be detrimental to my health in the future and I have to change it. Well, that is going to probably lead to some short-term annoyance of like, oh, I have to worry about the mechanics of walking and like moving my legs, when usually it was just a complete habit and I wouldn't have to think about it. So there is a little bit of that inconvenience there. That can also lead to a sense of your speech getting worse before it gets better. That's a very common thing that happens. But at the end of the day, you still need to do it, because you need to make the skills that you're learning, you need to make the fluency you're building conscious. Because the only way you're going to go from an unconscious, let's say, bad habit to an unconscious good habit is to take it through the conscious sphere. And you do that in this example with over articulation by going into situations and practicing in the real world with people. You're not going to be perfect. You're not going to do it right all the time, but you need to get comfortable. First of all, practicing it yourself and doing that a lot. And again, my workshop really helps give you a plan for this. And then you expand, you start using it a little bit when you order your coffee, your food, when you talk with friends, when you're at school, when you're at work. And then eventually you become very comfortable, and then it can eventually turn into this habit that just serves you. And then you can access it and you can play with it. You can customize it to exactly how it serves you best and how it serves your personality the best. Now, there is a technical thing I want to share here, just in case this happens, because sometimes when you start to practice over articulation, people can make the mistake of thinking that it means that you really hit the consonants and you talk like this more. It's not that. You're not doing that. The main thing you're doing is simply really just moving your lips more. So, and when you do it in the way that I'm saying, it's actually easier to then speak in this warmer tone. So where you have almost a softer approach to the consonants and the sounds. So by no means does over articulation mean that you over articulate like that. That's not what it means. We are simply moving our lips, and we are moving them more than we probably ever have before. And it really, really, really helps a lot of people when they start to implement this into their speech. Really helps them rise above their stuttering, at least to a degree. Again, one tool is not going to be the cure-all, probably not. And so you do need a larger system in place. But again, it's just a really powerful tool. And one more thing I'll mention too about over-articulation is that it's not just for stuttering. This works wonders for just your speech in general, and the ability to be perceived as just more interesting, more intelligent, and it helps you articulate your phrases more clearly. And it also slows you down in a positive way, because if I speak like this here on camera, I can't speak really fast. Or I mean, I can, but it's going to start to look really weird if I do that. People who speak really fast, they can't articulate even like I'm doing now, because they have to really move their lips fast and they have to talk like this. And so it's blah, 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 like that, like that. Versus when you articulate more, it slows you down, which can be a really good correction for a lot of people who stutter too. That one of their problems, not all of it, just one of their problems might be that they're speaking too fast. Okay. So over-articulation, it's great for people who stutter. It helped me overcome my stutter. It's one of the favorite tools of the clients that I coach. And this is a tool and a way of speaking that great speakers use, that interesting speakers use. And so you want to use this regardless if it's to help you stop stuttering or just help you become a better speaker in general. Over-articulation is just a brilliant weapon that you can use to elevate your speech and your life. All right, thank you so much for watching this video. Again, as I mentioned, if you want to dive deeper, if you want to get a system and a plan in place, then go check out my Stop Stuttering workshop. I'll leave a link in the description below this video. I'll see you over there, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. See you next time.